Hi VC, Dave back with you. Yes, quickly following up a video I only put up a couple of days ago, which was entirely based on cassette finds. You'll be glad to know there's no cassettes in this one. Vinyl and quite a lot of CDs as well, but yesterday I met up with Ben Costello, the one and only Ben Costello, and as is often the case, we exchanged VCLT. Again, Ben proving himself the most generous VCLT giver in the VC. I've received some superb stuff from him. One of which was hugely on my want list, and that is Incontinent by Fad Gadget. Yes, Fad Gadget's second album from 1981 on the Mute label. Fad Gadget, real name Frank Tovey. One of the very early artists to record on Mute. Oh yeah, whoever owned it actually did this kind of customized inner sleeve, which is pretty good. Yeah, so this is kind of electronic synth rock with maybe a little touch of industrial post-punk. Yeah, this is one on my want list for a long time. And thanks very much to Ben for giving this to me. I'm just kind of staggered, really, at just as you all know, Ben is really the top guy on the VC for VCLT. That's not all he gave me. He also gave me this by a band whom I previously did not have anything by. Oh yeah, Osibisa. This is what's the album called again? Sorry. Oh yeah, it's called Welcome Home. This is from 1975. They were famous for the Roger Dean covers. Now this one isn't actually by Roger Dean. This cover, it's by Ian Eames, but it's a really nice cover. Osibisa, a British-based band consisting of some expatriate, I think they're from Ghana, I'm not 100% sure. This came out on Bronze, but this is some really great kind of African-influenced funk. The main song on this is Sunshine Day, which I know that song, but I didn't actually know it was by them. It's a song which I've heard on the radio, or heard, it's just a kind of a song that I know, but I didn't actually twig that it was by Osibisa until I played this album. So yeah, really love this album. These really good kind of funky stuff. And madly, yeah, I'm just trying to pick up some more of their stuff, because you kind of see them around quite a bit. He also gave me 2 7-inch singles. I think he picked these up when he was in Wales recently. Both by the Angelic Upstarts. This one is called Out of Control, and this one is Teenage Warning. Yeah, both from, this one's from '79 and this one's from 1980. Both kind of that kind of oi punk genre. Which what was that? Cockney Rejects and bands like that, so were active in the late '70s, early '80s. Yeah, so met up with Ben yesterday. We went to a gig, actually. We kind of caught the tail end of a gig, but prior to that we were at a record fair, which was on here in town over the weekend. I didn't buy anything yesterday, but previously on the Friday I had bought 3 items at the fair. There's a seller there who mainly sells, now most of the records he has, they rarely tend to go past 1975, and now he tends to have great kind of prog, psych and so forth, but you very, very rarely see him selling kind of post-punk or anything kind of into the 80s, but I was quite surprised to find that he did have some. And yeah, so I'll just show what I got. First off, a band I'm always on the lookout for, Cocteau Twins. This is Bluebell Knoll, and this came out in 1988. Original UK pressing on 4AD with this really nice fold out sleeve. There. Yeah, great album. This is just, you know, Liz Fraser's vocals. The opening track, the self-titled track, is just sublime. Kind of utilizes harpsichord on that track, but yeah, they're a band who I don't have much by them on vinyl. They tend to be kind of pricey, but I got this for a really nice price actually. I got it for €7, so that is quite a good price for that. Now I picked up 2 items by Killing Joke. 2 that I was missing. Their third album, Revelations, from 1982, which came out on Editions EG. It's a slightly disappointing album in the context of the first 2 albums which came before it. Those 2 albums were like, it slightly falls short, but nevertheless, it does have that really kind of a really intense kind of pounding quality of their first 3 albums, but of our first 2 albums rather. But yeah, it's still a very, I got it for a decent price. Another by Killing Joke. This is Brighter Than 1,000 Suns from 1986. Now, anybody who remembers Freddie Big Star's Faces thread, I don't know if anybody actually showed this, but this was just done for that Faces thread. This is just perfect. You know, those superb, really striking photography of all the band members there. Yeah, this album again. This album is where they kind of try to go in often a slightly more commercial direction. They had a big hit single in '85 with Love Like Blood. Now on this album, I think they were trying maybe just a little too hard to kind of replicate the success of that single, because the production and that kind of bubbling synth that they used on that single is kind of, yeah, it's still a good album. Not one of their best though, I think, but still, I mean, it's one that I haven't seen around, and it's, you know, one I was missing. And I like the other 2, I got it for a really decent price. Yeah, because I think the guy is a seller who normally probably wouldn't be dealing with kind of, his expertise would be more in the kind of 60s and 70s kind of prog, psych, etc. So I think he underpriced them a little bit. So very pleased to pick them up for that. I'm going to go through some charity shop vinyl finds, and I'm also going to go through some CDs as well. Now this is something a little unusual for me anyway. Frank Sinatra, A Man Alone. from 1969. This, well, obviously it came out in Reprise. Let me just show you the label, because I don't generally see that kind of early Reprise label a lot. Reprise, of course, set up by Frank himself. Yes, this album is not typically Frank. I think it's one where he's kind of trying to do something a little different. He sings the songs of all the songs are written by Rod McEwen, and there's a little bit of maybe just a little touch of a kind of a Jacques Brel, kind of early Scott Walker kind of a vibe to this album, I think. Songs are kind of there is, I don't know if I quite call it a concept album, but they are quite kind of the title, A Man Alone, is kind of like very melancholy. It's very kind of autumnal, so it's very much kind of, I think it kind of fits in with this time of year. It's kind of, you know, I don't know, but yeah, it's nice to find it in a charity shop, and it's in really, really nice condition as well. Also found 3 Irish folk albums. This is an album, this is by Sweeney's Men, self-titled album, which originally came out on Transatlantic in 1968. This is a real kind of, this album when it came out was a real kind of groundbreaking kind of, one of the kind of early kind of Irish folk rock albums, I suppose you could call it, featuring Andy Irvine, the legendary, huge figure in Irish folk here. This is a later repress from maybe the late, there's no date in it, but I think it's from the late 70s or early 80s, on an Irish label which I'd never actually come across before, called Sonus. Probably some kind of budget label, I think, because there's different artwork to the original, so they have this really kind of cheap cover, but it's a difficult one to find in the wild, like any kind of pressing really. The originals are quite expensive, but this pressing as well, online anyway, it's kind of not cheap either, so I was very lucky to find it in a thrift or charity shop for €3 it cost me. So again, another Irish folk rock album. This is by a band called Spud, and this is called A Silk Purse. This came out in 1975 on the Phillips label. This is yeah, for anybody who's kind of familiar with maybe Horselips, yeah, this is kind of I don't know, maybe or Mushroom, maybe that band's kind of, yeah. So there's a little bit of a proggy rock, prog-ish feel to it. Oh, actually kind of, I didn't notice the bottom was actually split. But yeah, again, this is another album that's pretty hard to find in the wild. So a lucky charity shop find. A third find is one that I actually already have. This is the debut solo album by Christy Moore, Prosperous, which came out in 1972. Again, another difficult one to find in the wild. I already have this, so I may be giving this to somebody as VCLT, possibly. Yeah. Well, I know Ben has this one as well, and it's a superb album. It's kind of a seminal release in the Irish folk genre. Okay, I'm going to go through everything else I'm going to show now is going to be CDs. Now, this is something that I meant to pick up earlier in the year. Well, I actually meant to pick this up on vinyl, but I ordered it in my local record shop, but they didn't get it in. They're a bit, yeah, they can be a bit unreliable that way. But anyway, I got it on Discogs. That is Brian Eno, his latest. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see there. This is his latest album, Reflection, on the Warp label. Yes, I know it's on vinyl as well, but I'm happy enough to get this on CD. I think because I think it's a piece, one of those works that kind of works probably better on CD, really, because it's an uninterrupted piece of music, which is just under an hour, I think. It's entirely ambient. It's very, very minimal, and it's one of his, really, I think one of his best, certainly one of his best ambient works in a long time. It's certainly, you know, it's up there with Lux, you know, his which came out a few years ago as well, and so very, very minimal. Everything about it is minimal, really, but it really is another gem from Brian Eno, who is just, you know, absolutely prolific. He's just releasing an awful. He brought out The Ship as well. I think that was, although no, that was probably, I think, late last year was this. But anyway, that's Reflection by Brian Eno. Now, everything else I'm going to show are CDs which I picked up either in charity shops or, well, these two. Now, these strictly not a charity shop, but a kind of a, I suppose, a kind of a pawn shop. First off, Charles Mingus, The Clown. This album, I think this came out in 1956, if I'm not 56, 57 maybe. This is a late 90s CD issue. Yeah, this is kind of the title track is a really strange one. It's got this spoken word kind of narration about a clown, and you know, well, obviously, but quite interesting packaging, by the way. Yeah, this is I don't think I have anything prior to this by Charles Mingus, but well, obviously, you know, vinyl original vinyl editions of this, I presume. I don't know. It's not that I have never seen it around anyway, but I mean, happy to have it on CD for €3. In the same place, I picked up this. Now, this is by an artist called Diamanda Gallas. She's a Greek-American, well, basically she's a kind of an avant-garde opera singer, I suppose is the best way to describe her. She's a woman of many talents. She's a performance artist, singer. She has an absolutely incredible voice, like a really, really kind of high octave voice. This is it's called, sorry, the title is kind of a Defixiones, Will and Testament. This is a kind of a concept album about the well, basically it's dealing with the Armenian genocide which occurred in the Ottoman Empire, the early part of the 20th century, plus the ethnic cleansing of the Greek population from Turkey after the Second World War. there's some rather gruesome photos in here, which yeah, they're, despite the fact that these are in black and white, and they're quite disturbing, so I won't show those. But it's basically dealing with that Diamanda Gallas herself, of course, being of Greek parentage, so it's obviously an issue that I suppose would be kind of you know, the kind of both the Armenian genocide and the kind of Greek and Turkish, I think, population exchanges, I think it was called. They were both kind of, anyway, it's extremely powerful work. It's over 2 CDs, 2 discs, and disc 1, I mean, there's one part, it's quite a long piece and quite a challenging piece. One section, well, I don't know if it's called track, but that's about half an hour long, called a dance. But again, an artist who is very hard to find her stuff in the wild, so to find this in a as I described it, a kind of a I wouldn't call it a thrift shop, but a kind of a pawn shop kind of a type thing. So that was a very lucky find. Now, speaking of charity shops, this was an absolutely amazing find. Gavin Bryars, The Sinking of the Titanic. This is 2 of his early works: The Sinking of the Titanic and Jesus' Blood Never Failed Me Yet. This was one of the early releases on Brian Eno's Obscure Records label back in 1975. And this is a CD reissue from the late 90s. Again, very hard to find. This is something that I've been looking for. I actually have the vinyl edition on my want list, but now I'm quite happy to have this now on CD. Again, 2 highly kind of experimental avant-garde works. One dealing with, obviously, with the Titanic, and the second work on this, Jesus' Blood Never Failed Me Yet. It's a work that consists of it's a tape loop of a tramp singing a line from a religious song, which I don't think Gavin Bryars actually made the recording himself. It's one that he just came across, I think, and he used it in this for this composition. It's one of his most famous pieces, but yeah, absolutely delighted to find this in a charity shop for just €1. Another charity shop find. This is a Polish release, actually. Krzysztof Komedia, Polish composer who did the music for a lot of Roman Polanski's early movies, like Knife in the Water and oh yeah, Rosemary's Baby. These are arrangements of some of his music pieces. They're not the original arrangements from the actual films themselves. I think they've been re-recorded. This is all in Polish, so I can't. But yeah, it's a very nice find as well. Rather an unusual thing to find in a charity shop. Now this is one of the best of my recent charity shop finds. This is Dreamtime Return by Steve Roach. Steve Roach, I think Carm has shown quite a lot of his stuff, if I'm not mistaken. This is from 1988, and this is widely acclaimed as one of the top ambient albums of all time. It was recorded in Australia. It utilizes field recordings done with some Aboriginal tribes out there, plus overlaid with Steve Roach's ambient work. It really is an absolutely superb ambient album. It's spread over two discs, And this again, this is this goes for quite a lot online. It's a really hard, really quite expensive in all formats. So I got it for €2, I think, and it's an original German edition on Fortuna Records. So yeah, really pleased to find that. Yeah, there's quite a lot more here. Yeah, I actually may leave the rest because the videos kind of run on quite a bit, so I'll actually leave it at that. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. And oh, I forgot to mention myself and Ben yesterday. We managed to catch Acid Mother's Temple. They played a free gig here in Cork, so phone was actually ringing there. So thanks very much everybody for watching, and see you next time.